Coming up on Tech News Today, it's our 2012 prediction show. We'll lay it all out for you folks, everything that's going to happen in the next year as we predict it next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, December 30th, 2011. Tech News Today is brought to you by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly. All streamed directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/twit. Welcome to the last Tech News Today of 2011. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
I'm Jason Howell.
And that's it. World ends in not till December 21st, 2012.
There's more news, Tom.
So we got a whole year in news.
Yeah, we're fine.
Almost
it's going to be a rad month.
Absolutely. You know what?
What?
I am going to miss 2011.
Why is that?
Because I'm just overly nostalgic and sentimental at this time of year.
Really?
Oh, I can't wait for this year to die a horrible, horrible death.
That's
Really?
I'm done with this year. I'm finished with this year.
I feel ambivalent.
You took a horrible job.
Man, yeah,
Moved to
bad
the
things
wrong
have happened
coast.
for you this year,
A
Iyaz.
lot of mistakes.
Awful coworkers.
Oh,
Deep
yeah.
depression.
Horrible, horrible people. Horrible desks. The pain. No. They're
Horrible desks.
Cramped studios.
I was like, the people are
New
bad, and I hate these
studios.
desks.
desks.
I got a splinter.
No, I've had an up and down year. I'm just glad 2012 is coming.
I'm looking forward to 2012, I have to say. And it's time for our predictions show where we look ahead to 2012 and decide what is going to happen for you. We'll lay it all out so that you have no uncertainties about the coming year.
Yeah, don't worry about it. If you have any questions, just don't worry about it. We have you covered because we know the future.
Right. If you've seen our prediction results show, you know.
Yeah,
we're rarely wrong.
We're as good as a coin, I think.
Yeah, I'm
At
pretty
least.
close. Yeah.
So there you
Some
go.
of us but closer to a coin than others. I think I am a coin. Not sure what denomination. All right, so I'll start with a topic, and if anybody has a prediction along that same topic, throw it in.
All right.
I got a lot of TV industry predictions, not so much about televisions themselves, but I think TV is going to have its Napster moment this year in the sense that the industry is going to get disrupted. And all of a sudden, people are going to start using the internet for television in a way that the television industry absolutely hates, and they're going to have to respond. Now, with Napster, it was, hey, we're not buying CDs anymore. We're downloading the music off Napster. I'm not saying it's going to be that literal of a replication, but there's going to be something happen, and maybe it'll be a cable company launches online. Where you can get all your television networks over the internet. But I think I should maybe specify a cable TV is going to have its Napster moment this year.
And it'll be some sort of loophole that is not closed for a while, the way Napster was technically usable before it was shut down?
I don't mean it so much legally as innovative. I think actually people are, because of Napster, a lot more careful about how they disrupt things, which is bad for disruption. Usually if you have to be careful, it's not very disruptive. But so I don't know if it will necessarily become as clear-cut of a case of illegal behavior as Napster. But I bet whoever does it gets dragged into court for some reason.
Well, I certainly hope this is true. I want it to be true. I mean, I guess if you think of something like Boxy software or the way that people can use private channels on their Roku box to hack into where people are uploading television-wise, it's all possible right now, but it's not as if there's a company saying, okay, don't want to pay cable anymore? Here's another way to watch your favorite NBC shows.
That's why I don't know if that one's gonna. I'd like that to be true as well, but I don't see it happening just because the way these television companies have been going out of or the networks have been going out of their way to put their content online. Further in 2011, they're like, we'll put back episodes on. NBC did that, and they had extra ways to get revenue on that thing. So I mean, the content's already there.
They've been backtracking. They've been saying, well, now we're going to make you wait 8 days. Well, now we're going to make you wait 28 days. Well, now we don't want Netflix to have access to this or that. That's my thinking. And so, and everybody's been like, well, I'm going to do Juiced, or I'm going to be the next Netflix. I'm going to come up with something. I think there's something we can't predict is going to happen.
Okay, that's a great one. An unpredictable event will happen.
Something.
I think no. I mean, it's going to be the disruptive TV event. I just don't know what form that event will take.
Well, I think you ought to think a little bit more about your prediction then, Tom. Something will happen. I just don't know what yet.
Yeah, that's my prediction.
Okay.
TVs.
Something unpredictable will happen. I got 2 other TV things. Anybody want to jump in first, though?
Don't have TV stuff.
I have a couple TV things that are related to TV rumors that we've already got swirling around.
All right.
The Apple TV, I think that needs to be addressed on the show.
Oh, the one I predicted last year.
Right.
Yeah.
But
the TV set that is an Apple product, not the Apple TV. Right?
Exactly.
Okay.
The integrated, it's all one. It's got a little, the little Apple logo at the bottom, and that's all you have. I do not think we will see that in 2012.
Ha! I do.
Okay.
I'm just going to keep predicting it every year from
because
now on.
somebody's
No,
right.
eventually you'll be right.
Yeah.
I think it's in the works. I believe the Steve Jobs biography quotes that
We've cracked it.
What was the quote? We've cracked it, or I've cracked it. I just don't see it being ironed out in a model that will be released by Apple anytime this year. I do think that Apple TV will get upgrades. I don't think that they're abandoning that. I think it'll go up to 1080p. I don't know how much smaller it really needs to get. It's pretty small now. But no, I don't think that fabled Apple TV is going to happen in the next year.
I feel like this is where iPhone was the December before the iPhone came out. So I actually think Apple TV will be unveiled at the WWDC in June as a development platform. It will be a stunner with voice control, integrated cloud playback, seamlessly across devices. An app store where channels can go and create their own channels that then you can buy a la carte, and then it goes on that app store model that Apple has created.
Well, this is almost your first prediction. I mean, is Apple going to be the company that disrupts the cable industry
by having apps for channels?
Is this the cable industry's Napster moment?
I don't know. I think Apple's going to do this. I don't know if this becomes the thing that everybody gets all crazy about, but maybe it will be.
Well, if Apple does what you're saying it's going to do, it will be the cable's biggest disruption ever. Sure, that sounds great. I just don't think it's going to happen.
I thought it was going to be for the Apple section. I'm going to say no Apple TV, no integrated unit, but you're going to have a giant iMac. I'm saying there's going to be freaking huge iMacs, but no Apple television.
How huge is freaking huge?
Yeah.
Right now, 27 is the biggest.
I'd say
5.
No, I'd say 50, 55.
What?
Okay, so
a 55.
So it could be your TV,
iMac?
but it's an iMac.
But where would it go if it wasn't on your television console?
I'm just saying they're going to call it the iMac.
Okay, if they come out with an Apple TV that's 55 inches and looks like the iMac, are you going to take credit for this prediction?
No.
Okay.
I won't.
Good.
If they relabel the iMacs as Apple TVs, I will be wrong.
All right. I think TV is also the next big thing as cloud music was this year. I think we're going to see lots of services trying, which is, of course, why I think we're going to have our Napster moment because so many people. But like the way this year we had Amazon reshape their music. We had Google reshape their music. We had Apple reshape their music. And all with these cloud services. Spotify came to the United States. I think that's going to happen for TV next year.
When Android is on 51%. That's Eric Schmidt's prediction, not mine, of television.
Yeah, let's go into any other Apple predictions.
I've got a few.
All right, let's go.
All right, iPad 3. Okay, I'm not going to predict that the iPad 3 will come out. Okay?
A new iPhone and a new iPad will come out. There, I win.
Apple will have announcements. No, the iPad 3 will have a Retina display.
Okay.
It's a common rumor, so I mean, I'm not bringing up anything that you haven't read before. I also think it will have better cameras on both sides.
Nice.
There's the argument that, well, does anyone really use their iPad for the cameras? It's certainly not the first place I go, but that's because the cameras suck. If the cameras were better, I'd be much more inclined to use something like FaceTime, for example, or make better use of all the photo editing apps that I have on my iPad. And there are some really, really good ones, but they're somewhat unusable unless you import good photos into your iPad. So better cameras on both sides, I think, is key. And I think iPhone 5 will come out with LTE, and everyone who is a Verizon customer will end up being the happiest because of that.
Okay, so
those are my Apple predictions.
I think you're right about the iPad 3, but I think there will be a smaller iPad, a 7 or 7, closer to 8-inch iPad, and it's just going to be to compete because right now the 7-inch stuff is actually succeeding, and I think it's going to be that weird in-between space. I don't know what they're going to do with the iPod Touch, but they're going to have the smaller iPad. And then MacBooks will be over. They're done. MacBook Airs will be the low-end one.
So they'll basically just replace, like they did with MacBooks. Yeah. MacBook Airs kind of replaced MacBooks.
When they cut the price point this year, I'm like, this is really where they're going. I mean, and once they introduced the App Store again for Mac, it made a lot of sense. I'm like, there's really no reason to have an optical drive on your student machine, and that's really what the MacBook's been marketed as for a long time. I'm thinking MacBook gets dropped, MacBook Air takes over, and you're not going to have optical drives in the low end, optical drives in the Pros.
You're talking about MacBook Pros, the whole thing?
No, MacBook Pros will still exist.
Okay.
MacBooks will be replaced by Air.
All right.
Or the Air will become the MacBook, one of those.
Wait, I thought you said they're going to replace MacBook Pros.
No, not the Pros.
Oh, well, they've almost pretty much replaced. I mean, they just have to retire one line and MacBooks are gone. All right.
At least it was a bold
prediction. I think that's a safe prediction.
They're going to add the word Air to one of their line of MacBook products.
The only Apple one that I have is that at some point, I keep expecting this to happen, or at least I did this last year. I didn't make it a prediction, but maybe it'll happen this year. Touchscreen iMac. I feel like Apple is so kind of into this whole touchscreen. You know, they've dominated so much as a result of the touchscreen, and
so what
they're
you're
kind
saying
of mixing
27-inch iPad.
20. I'm saying a 55-inch iMac. Yeah, iMac, right, with a touchscreen. No, I wonder if that's ever going to kind of converge and cross over, because so much of their recent success has been built around the touchscreen, and they've also kind of expressed interest in unifying, or at least kind of blurring the lines between the OS X operating system and iOS and everything. So maybe having a touchscreen on a larger format enables that to be more of a reality.
I like it. Actually, I think that's a pretty good prediction. I don't know.
I don't know if it's going to be.
Yeah,
well, it's got to happen because Steve Jobs says nobody wants to do Gorilla Arm, and that's every time he says we're not going to do something, it happened.
Yeah, that's true. And
we're not doing a tablet. We're not doing a phone.
He's not calling.
We're not doing Gorilla Arm.
I kind of don't think it's going to happen, but I know I'm not so sure that I'm like, oh, you're crazy.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There is no MacBook in the Apple Store.
There's
only MacBook Air and MacBook Pro.
They already killed MacBook?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
then
yes.
Nice prediction for last year.
No.
I thought your prediction was that the MacBook Pro would be replaced by MacBook Airs.
I'm not going to say that. That's crazy.
Oh, well, that would.
Well, then you predicted the past.
The MacBook still exists.
You can't do that. There's no prediction in the past in
I thought that the old MacBook still had one model, but I was wrong.
I thought so too. That's why.
Now that I think about it, I remember that they did away with that.
They still have MacBook for schools, says Caffeine-Free Dave. So maybe that's what Iyaz was thinking of.
Can I make one more Apple prediction and then I'm done with Apple?
Okay.
This is wishful thinking, and I'm just surprised that I'm
drinking.
Well, that too.
Carrie.
It's going to be pretty
eventually.
soon. Yeah. Has anyone ever told you I look like Carrie Fisher? iTunes is going to be rebranded, and what I mean by that is iTunes will go back to being just about music and will no longer encompass things like podcasts, TV shows, and movies and apps.
And then how will you get all of those things?
Well, there's going to be some sort of more all-encompassing iStore. I'm calling it the iStore because I don't know what it's going to be called, but I hate the fact that iTunes has grown so much that it's a place to get so many more things than tunes. Tunes to me are still music. Tunes are music. That's what it should be. I understand that the iTunes Store has been extremely successful, and they've been extremely successful being able to bring all sorts of other content into the store, but the title makes no sense.
Apple Store.
Apple Store.
Across all platforms.
Great.
The App Store becomes the Apple Store.
Perfect.
If you're on your desktop, your laptop, your tablet, whatever, you've got the Apple Store where you can buy apps and TV and music and everything. And then iTunes itself is still your music player.
Right.
I like it.
I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
I understand what's in iTunes right now. You guys understand what's in iTunes. But it still just doesn't make sense.
And what
as far as naming conventions.
Virgil says, what about calling it iStore? But to me, it's you've got an Apple Store out there in the world, and you just say, this is the Apple Store.
So would it replace the Apple Store app that currently exists, or is that going to be a piece of it?
Yeah, they'll have to figure that part out.
Yeah. But that would be an easy rebrand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because that's almost more for...
Maybe they fold it into the App Store app. I don't know. Interesting thought, though. All right. Any more Apple predictions?
Apple.
I'm done.
All right, let's take a break and thank our sponsor, Netflix.com/twit. you can get 30 days free streaming, unlimited movies, television shows. This is the network that's going to be bringing back Arrested Development someday, so you might want to get in and start figuring out how this works if you haven't. And there's no cost to trying it. Netflix.com/twit is the place to go for a free 30-day trial. And if you already have Netflix, of course, pass it along to your friends. You can watch Netflix on almost any device you can think of. If it's got a screen and an internet connection, you can watch Netflix on it. I almost guarantee it. It's on the Xbox. It's on the PlayStation. It's on the Wii. It's on the Logitech Review. It's on the Sony Google TV. It's on the Boxy Box. It's on the Roku. It's on your iPad. It's on Android. What is it not on? Almost
your wrist.
It is not currently on my wrist, but it could be.
But it should be.
Yeah, someday with wearable computing. I'm going to get to that in a minute. Netflix.com/twit. We thank everyone for their support. Everyone at Netflix for their support of Tech News Today. Let's go to Android predictions. I'll start.
I don't have any of those.
You know, I'm sure you don't. I predict Android, the operating system, starts breaking off into subcategories, including one or more not even under Google's control. So Amazon's Kindle Fire Android is an example of one of those kind of subcategories, although that is technically still under Google's control. I think the Android open source is going to start showing up on lots of devices that are totally outside of Google's control.
You mean like a further kind of forking of the Android source code?
I want to avoid the word fork.
Okay.
And all of the attendant discussions.
So the source code is spooning in different directions.
Maybe, yeah.
Okay.
No, I think a lot of manufacturers are going to start taking advantage of the open source of Android and not involve Google in it, whether that means forking or not.
And so you're kind of saying that Android is going to be used in more ways that don't have a whole lot to do with the ways that we're used to seeing it now, like in mobile phones or whatever, but more like driving other pieces of technology that might not have much to do
all over the place. Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at the Kindle Fire and I'm saying that's going to happen more often because it's happened on the Nook. And now it's happening on the Fire, and the people are going to start taking advantage of the fact that they can do whatever they want with Android.
I mean, I thought there was like Arcos tried this. They tried to have Android without Google's blessing, and they had their own app market or app store because you can't use Google's market. And you think these companies are going to go out of their way to also create their own app stores because that's something that Amazon got to do, that a lot of companies just didn't have the same kind of pull to get people into their app store.
I think they're going to find a solution to that, whether it's like a GetJar situation where they just use that and start getting behind that as a consortium, as a bunch of different ones. But yeah, I think it's going to happen.
I like it.
Well, as far as Android upgrades is concerned, I predict that Google is going to begin to stretch out their major upgrades to the OS. In other words, rapidly upgrading the OS the way they've done in the last year. Like in the last 365 days, they've released Gingerbread in December, Honeycomb in February, Ice Cream Sandwich in October. I think at this point, they really kind of buckle down and start releasing one major revision a year. And that's not to say that they don't roll out little incremental things here and there, but they really kind of following actually what iOS does, where every year you expect one big grand upgrade. I feel like Android at this point has kind of gotten to a point to where it's a little bit more baked now.
So all we're going to see in 2012 will be Jujubes. That's it.
Or whatever it ends up being.
Wait, you said baked, so I guess it'd be Jelly Donut.
Oh, okay, yes. Yeah, I hadn't considered that. Jelly Donut might not be a...
It's not a bad name, actually.
Well, actually, but they
already had donut.
They already had donuts, so they probably wouldn't do that. But I don't think we're going to see 2 or 3, big version revisions every year going forward. I think it's going to be one solid one with tiny little, bug fixes, maybe a few enhancements along the way, but you're not going to see 3 major releases in a full year.
I think you're definitely right. Whether it's once a year, that almost seems too slow for me, but I think they're going to ratchet back the release frequency quite a bit. I think they want Ice Cream Sandwich to play out for a while. Yeah. Maybe the end of near the fall of next year, we see the J release.
Yeah, or we start hearing about it. But it really does seem, actually, when you think about it, Gingerbread released last December, Ice Cream Sandwich released, or at least was announced, unveiled in October. Really seems like close to the holidays seems to be their big unveiling.
Yeah, you may be right about that. That's good.
Before I predict something that may have already happened, the browser that's in Ice Cream Sandwich is not Chrome, right? It's still not technically Chrome. It's called Browser.
Not. It is not Chrome.
Now I'm going to
I know what's coming.
Yeah, well, I think Google's going to finally mash together Android and Chrome OS. That once they get Motorola, once you dock your phone, you're going to be able to do that. Instead of that web top, you're going to get Chrome OS if you want, because it seems like a natural fit. Because they had this weird Firefox kind of thing. Why not go with Chrome OS there? Now, whether there's a portable version or not, I'm expecting that browser, which has been hated by a lot of people. Everyone I know that runs Android goes, get Dolphin. Dolphin's great. Don't use the browser, because I've used the thing, and the actual browser is kind of crappy. But Dolphin's really good. So I'm thinking it's going to be together. I'm not saying they're going to kill Chrome OS. I'm just saying that it's going to be a part of Android.
I think they're going to kill Chrome OS.
Okay.
I think Larry Page is going to get it in his gun sights and say, what is this good for? What is this doing for us? We have Android. Goodbye.
That wasn't
Chrome OS.
Yeah, Chrome OS wasn't anywhere in my predictions. But
also,
I agree with
believe
you,
that Larry Page is going to start dressing like a gunslinger and walking around talking like a cowboy.
Make sound effects.
Yeah. Wearing
I
a
hope
cowboy
that's
hat.
true. I certainly hope that's true. If we're making Google predictions, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Jason.
no. Let's do that because the rest of mine are kind of googly in general.
Are they? Okay, so this is a prediction that, it's funny, we were just talking about Google Plus on the social hour recently because there was a study that searches for Google Plus have dropped rapidly. Okay, some of you are going to be mad at this prediction, but I think you're already mad. I think
Wow, that didn't take much.
that Google Plus is going to peter out.
Well, a lot of people are already saying it is, yeah.
And I mean,
Like
I don't mean peter out as in
chicken out.
no. I mean, I feel like there's a possibility that this time next year, people will say, "Gosh, remember when we were all on Google Plus sharing a bunch of stuff before it was overrun by spam and crappy brands that were just a bunch of marketing BS." I feel like Google Plus is such a great idea, and in many ways the execution has been spot on, but I don't think it's going to. I don't think it's. I want to word this carefully.
Yeah, I'll throw in while you form that phrase.
Well, I form my carefully worded phrase.
I think Google Plus needs to have a big addition to save it.
Yeah,
and I don't mean to say that like it's in dire danger, but I think it is sort of coasting right now, and it's going to have something that makes everybody pay attention to it again. This happened to Facebook over and over.
Yeah,
where Facebook, they'd get bigger and then they'd coast for a while, and then all of a sudden they'd say, now we're opening it up to outside of networks, and then it did. But now we've added the timeline, and so they always innovated to like get people in until they got critical mass and could just kind of barrel forward. And they're still doing things like timeline and everything to do that. Google Plus is at a point right now, I think we're seeing that decline, that sag, because they haven't done anything new lately. And they keep
rolled out
coming
a bunch of updates.
Yeah, they keep coming out with updates, but there's nothing that's made people turn their heads and go, oh. Like games was the last thing I can think of that made everyone go back to Google Plus and try it out again.
I played some Bejeweled Blitz for like a weekend, but and I really liked it, but even it didn't come back to that regularly. I guess the reason I'm saying this is not because I don't think Google Plus is a good tool. I think it's a great tool, and I know that a lot of people are using it and are happy with it and are successful with their networks. The problem is mass adoption on a Facebook scale. It's not on Google Plus. I mean, none of my non-techie friends are on Google Plus, and I'm not going to convince them to get on Google Plus in the next year.
Yeah.
So every single that's what I'm saying.
Guest host we have on Tech News Today has a Twitter account. Only like 70 to 80% of them have Google Plus accounts.
And those are tech people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree partially with you, Sarah. One of my predictions is that by the year's end, Google Plus will have still failed to kind of capture the minds of people everywhere in a way that can challenge the massive adoption of Facebook and Twitter and that sort of thing. However, I think Google Plus still continues to grow at a steady rate, just entirely by the fact that it's embedded deeply into Android devices. And as the number of Android devices and Android adoption continues to rise, all of those people like just getting into Android, the ecosystem for the first time, are partially, hopefully eventually kind of get to the point to where they realize that a big value of this is the grand kind of interaction between all of Google's products into your phone and what that means at a larger scale. So I think Google Plus continues to actually do really well just based on Android adoption alone.
All right. Any more googly things here? Jason,
I have Google patent stuff.
Googly, no.
Google patent stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, like
related.
after they get Motorola.
Yeah, exactly.
What are they going to use their
Mobility.
patents for?
So I've got two things here. Once the acquisition with Motorola Mobility is complete, Google will start to step up to the plate and actually begin to wage its own patent wars. Basically, offering kind of similar to what they did with HTC, offering helpful pieces of its portfolio.
Defensive or offensive?
I think a little bit of both.
I think they're going to go sue people.
Well, I think by year's end they will have offered up a good amount of their portfolio to the manufacturers and people that are really required to help.
I think that's why those manufacturers are not objecting to Google buying Motorola is they've made some tacit promises that you will benefit from us buying Motorola directly with patents.
I could see them by year's end basically saying, hey, you know what? We've gotten a lot of flack for this, that, and whatever. You're doing that. We're going after you. Just to kind of show that they're not so passive.
Just to show that we can be a little evil sometimes.
Yes, I suppose so. Hey, you got to do what you got to do. And so that's one prediction. A follow-up, having said that, once the deal for Motorola Mobility completes, I see Google offloading the company. They got what they truly wanted, which is access to the patent portfolio. They're not interested in being in the hardware business, nor do they want the continued hassle of being seen as a competitor to the other manufacturers that are instrumental in keeping Android vibrant and alive. So what do you think about that?
Selling off Motorola,
the mobility arm, yes.
Well, that's what they bought, Motorola Mobility.
Right.
Then,
yeah, but selling off the hardware part.
So you're saying
Sorry. Go in.
Will they sell at the set-top box part? That's hardware. All they bought was a hardware company. So you're saying they just sell off the mobile phone part.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about that aspect of it. I just don't think, I think anything that has to do with Google making hardware just seems weird to me.
Logitech review, they don't make, they make the software for it, so they won't want to be in the business. Okay,
right.
So
they
really what it means you're saying they keep the patents and they sell everything else off.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't see that happening. I see them actually sticking with Motorola. Motorola will still operate as an independent arm and keep working.
That's what they say.
I think that's going to happen.
Until it completes.
I think Google's going to be stagnant. I think by the end of this year, we're going to be looking at a lot of stories, people going, what has Google done lately? Have they lost their edge? Are they not innovating anymore? Because I think what Larry Page is doing is smart, but it means we're going to be seeing fewer of these whiz-bang new products from Google that make us always think, wow, Google's always trying all kinds of new things. And by the end of next year, everybody's going to be like, well, yeah, Gmail's gotten a lot better and Google Docs has improved. And I really like the integration of Google Plus and wow, Google TV improved. But everybody's going to be like, yeah, but Google hasn't done anything new lately. And that's just
nothing from Google X will surface in 2012.
Maybe. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. All right, let's move on to mobile since we're kind of verging into that. I think Sprint, T-Mobile, and Dish form a joint venture. And T-Mobile is essentially that joint venture. The way that Sprint kind of came in and did the joint venture with Clear in the past, and then sort of had to end up taking responsibility for it because everybody else backed out. I think they're going to try to do the same thing with T-Mobile. And Dish is going to be like, yeah, sure, we'll get in on that.
See, that I can agree with. I'm thinking maybe not a consortium. I'm thinking maybe more if something like LightSquared gets off the ground finally. There's going to be finally a fourth major player, like a real major player, or a fifth major player, I guess, if you want to count T-Mobile and Sprint as 3 and 4. If it's a consortium, I could see that working. But I'm thinking the MVNO stuff might take off if there's enough wholesalers out there. Because, Verizon's making a crap ton of money, and they haven't sold their stuff off. And they could if they wanted to. If they wanted to just keep increasing profits, I could imagine. Remember, there's all those old rumors of Apple being an MVNO. For this kind of thing where you could buy a device right from the store and go, look, it works right now because I bought it from the Apple store. I bought it from the Microsoft store. But there's going to be an actual competitor out there. It'll be nice.
I had a T-Mobile prediction, too, and this is a little crazy off the rails. This is what I see for T-Mobile in 2012. Right. T-Mobile gets the iPhone 5.
Okay.
Undercuts everybody by a significant enough amount that either new iPhone users or others switch to T-Mobile because they're the underdog and they give the best plans. Because of this, T-Mobile goes really deep into debt since they're also trying to build out their new network. But that's okay because they're looking long-term. So I think
Sprint plan.
What's that?
The Sprint plan. That's effectively what Sprint did.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
But I think that Sprint is people sort of go, okay, Sprint got the iPhone, and
Sprint
they owe some money. T-Mobile has. This is like It's like the longest pass ever.
iPhone 5 exclusive or iPhone 5?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, yeah, exclusive.
That's the craziest long-term. Like,
people are forced to switch to T-Mobile if they want an iPhone.
That would do it.
The biggest issue for that is T-Mobile needs different spectrum
I know.
to get Apple to make an iPhone that'll work on T-Mobile. That's why they don't have an iPhone right now. They're getting spectrum from AT&T.
This is all
and if they
contingent on
did
the
a
spectrum
joint
being built
venture, they could get access to spectrum. So these all might kind of work together here, these predictions. I also think by the time we do our prediction results show next year, we're all going to be laughing like, remember how we were all thinking about T-Mobile?
Yeah, right.
Wow,
Yeah.
Nobody talks about T-Mobile anymore. For whatever reason. I also think wireless mobile payments will start to become popular this year, but not because of NFC. I think it's going to be, whether it's card case or the PayPal situation, I think we're going to leapfrog right past NFC. It's going to be one of those technologies, kind of like FireWire, where it's really good for some uses, but it just never gets the massive adoption that everybody wanted it to.
Well, that's a harsh analogy there. We're putting it with FireWire, huh?
Was that harsh to FireWire or NFC?
NFC. It's harsh, very harsh to NFC. That means it works really well, but nobody used it at the end of the day. I think you're right on that one.
Yeah,
NFC is kind of all over the place. But then again, the credit card companies are all together with ISIS, and I think the mobile the carriers are going to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and they're going to have the great. I'm expecting I'm not kidding, an actual good ad campaign explaining NFC to the point where people are like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because I know those ads for Chase where they're like, oh, we can all pay with our phones. There are people like normal people, not tech people. They're like, oh, how do you do that? That's really cool. I think it's actually going to take off.
All Square has to do is figure out how to get the current registers to accept card case, and they win. I'm telling you, that is the way to pay for things. I don't take my phone out of my pocket. Forget NFC, forget tapping. It just is on, and at the worst, I have to pull it out and launch the app because it just didn't happen. You know, it happened to lose connection that time. But
right.
That's wireless payment. They just look at you and go, "Oh, hello, Tom. Yeah, there you go."
Yeah, knowing that this is already possible, extremely limited. But I mean, I have used this in a couple of cases.
I use it every day.
I do not want to scan one thing ever.
Yep. No, I
just leapfrog over that whole idea.
I think the idea is the holdup is that you have to have an iPad register right now to use Square.
Right.
That's not workable for most businesses. So if they can get past that, I think they might be the people.
What are you doing every day at Acre Coffee?
Acre Coffee, right down the street.
All right.
They know me now.
Yeah.
You're that one guy that uses.
I know
our Square
Sarah
system.
and Emily, but I had to ask their names. They knew mine from card case.
That's great.
I do have an NFC prediction. Actually, my prediction is kind of half of what yours was. Just basically that NFC continues to be a fad, promises a lot, delivers very little. Retail adoption won't amount to enough to make the promise of NFC a widespread reality, and therefore it remains a fringe convenience. And then I kind of went a little bit further in saying, I'm not saying it wouldn't happen eventually, just not significantly in 2012. So I don't know what's going to win out. I agree with you. Something's going to be kind of the mobile payment system. I just don't know if 2012 is the year for NFC specifically.
iPad Rick says, I predict that TNT will stop using whole words and will speak entirely in acronyms.
Lol.
I know.
IDK.
If you don't know the acronyms that we're talking about, our show sounds hilarious. Well, the NFC with the PTK and the LLPU will obviously CMPU all the way to the NFP. That's how it sounds to people who don't know what we're talking about. All right. Any more mobile predictions?
I don't know if this is necessarily mobile, but it certainly seems to be mobile right now, which is voice recognition.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, because it's Siri. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, Siri and Google Voice. I don't know where this fits in, but I guess I see it more in mobile than anything else. 2012 is a really big year for voice recognition and text-to-speech. Between Siri, Google's voice actions, the public is way more aware and even further more accepting of this. I think Siri is obviously a big reason for that. As a result, more emphasis will be placed on improvements. This is not a fad that goes away, but increases significantly in 2012. I'm excited to see what happens around voice recognition. The more I use my voice actions when I'm walking down the street and I want to send a text message and I don't want to do this thing while I'm walking, like, it's just awesome. And I think people are way more open to the possibilities of talking dumbly to a device now. You know what I mean?
Dumbly?
Hey, you dumb device.
God, a person.
I don't know. We're willing to do what we have to do because it's amazingly convenient once you learn how to do it. And I think people are more open to that because of Siri specifically.
I actually, go ahead, Iyaz.
Does mobile count like handsets and things, or are we talking about?
Apparently, it counts everything.
We're going to everything. Okay, I'm gonna say I got Intel won't succeed in phones. Medfield is not going to take off. That's a pretty simple.
Oh, you mean their chips won't be adopted?
Yeah, you're not going to see that. Even though
I kind of have to agree with you.
I think in
on
tablets you'll see it thanks to Windows. You're not going to see them. You're not going to see those Medfield chips. Even with the reference designs, which they've shown off, they're really beautiful reference designs. They've said this year after year. We're going to be in phones. No, not going to happen. And craziest prediction I will make the entire show: Windows Phone will hit 15% market share.
I don't even think that's that crazy. It's a stretch goal. I'll give you
15%.
that. 15%. I think it's possible. 15 seems reasonable.
I feel like 15 seems low.
Yeah. I mean, well, consider where it is right now. What, 5 or less?
It's way less than that.
Yeah, it's very low single digits percentage.
I don't mean
so
it seems low for Microsoft. It's just overall, I don't feel like that's too crazy.
I think it's a stretch, but I think that's possible. Okay. I think touch is going to make way for motion. On gadgets and desktops. I think we're going to see touch has been the big thing. Like everything has to have a touch screen, right? And that's what Jason was talking about. With us having to do touch on computers
and the option to.
Yeah, I think motion and kind of combined with voice, like Kinect has it, is going to become the big trend. You're going to see people trying to add motion control into things like phones and tablets, even.
This is mobile related, but a little bit more on the gaming side. Nintendo and Sony decide to change their tune on iOS first, and then perhaps Android.
Well, Sony's already on Android.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, so what
games?
Yeah, what I mean is these two companies are both still releasing handheld consoles. Both had, Sony just very recently, and Nintendo earlier in the year, with the 3DS and the Vita, sold respectably, but not hits.
And the Xperia Play.
That too.
That's just the Xperia Play.
And I feel like the two companies with, now that I'm saying this, I'm like, guys, is this really going to happen by the end of 2012? I think it will. No, I'll stick with my prediction.
I think the Sony stuff, I think that's a little bit of a reach, because I think once they bought out Ericsson, their phones will have exclusively like the PlayStation games.
Yeah.
Or the because you won't have that.
Sony does it.
You won't have the Xperia Play. You'll just have the PlayStation phone. It'll finally hit, and the Vita and everything will just kind of combine, I'm thinking. But for Nintendo, though, I think you're dead on. They have to do this to survive.
I think Nintendo will start by getting their own phone out there first.
Really?
And that will flop, and then they'll finally give in and start putting.
Is that an official prediction?
Yeah,
make
it official.
The Nintendo phone will fail, and then they'll get on board.
Yeah,
with
they
iOS.
won't get on board until next year, or 2013. With
after the Mayan calendar.
Yeah, we'll all be dead then.
Okay.
Anyway. One last mobile from me. Wearable computing will finally become an emerging trend that you can buy, not just like, oh, look at this research thing. And you can kind of do it right now with things like the Nano, and there's some other watch type wearable computing. But I think glasses, lots of watches, wrist things like the one that broke.
Jawbone up.
I think we're going to see an explosion of those during the coming year.
And do you think this is going to have an adoption, or do you think there's going to be a lot of these things introduced? That I guess.
I think they'll be more successful than spot watches. I don't want to go any farther than that.
I think you're probably right. That is a safe thing. I mean, I think LG introduced their watch phone last year.
Oh yeah, that was.
And that didn't go so well. The Moto Active is out now. At least, and that's.
Yeah, but people really like the iPod Nano on the wrist.
Yes.
And I think more company. Apple had a wearable computing expert that Google then hired. So I think we're going to see introduction of products.
I don't think 2012 is the year. I think 2013 maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
I think you're a little
jumping the gun a little.
Just a tiny bit.
You may be right about that.
That's about it.
Any more mobile?
No.
All right, on to policy.
Ugh.
Yeah,
I predict I'm not going to say anything.
But no, we have to address patent wars, which Jason actually addressed a little bit with Motorola. I think patent wars will peak and then decline without any patent reform. And by the end of next year, you won't be sick of patent coverage on Tech News Today, not because we just stopped covering it, because it just won't be as big of a deal as it is right now.
I think partly what Jason said and what you said were right. Because Google's going to buy Motorola, have those patents, we're going to see this big, fat cross-licensing agreement, and nobody's going to be suing each other anymore. It's just going to be these backroom dealings that you won't be seeing anymore. Because that's how this is supposed to go. It's the last, your last alternative is the courtroom, even though nobody believes me when I say that. But that's the case. You want to negotiate before you get to court. And once Google is a major, like they actually have patents instead of their ridiculous, pathetic patent portfolio, when they get Motorola's, all that stuff's going to get hammered out because Microsoft's already said, look, we got patents on Android, and Android manufacturers pay them out. That's already done. Then you'll have Google working with Apple. You'll have all these fun, interconnected companies based on patent cross-licensing agreements, and we won't be covering patent wars.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll officially be putting the segment drop to rest at some point.
Yeah, it
won't be a daily occurrence.
We'll pull it out in the prediction results show.
Yeah, we'll be remember this
when it comes out this part. Yeah.
How many times did it actually happen during the year? Somebody should be counting that.
Yeah.
I think by the end of this year, nobody's going to remember SOPA or Protect IP. I think that's going to be like oh, right, we were so concerned about that in December. It's going to be like net neutrality is this year. We're like, oh, yeah. It's not necessarily going to be solved. I'm thinking they won't pass.
Right. It'll just kind of fade out a little bit.
It'll just kind of fizzle, you know, and they'll move on to other attacks.
They'll secretly work on how to like fit it into some sort of agricultural bill.
Yeah, they'll come up with other tactics.
Promote American Jobs Act.
Right. Yeah, right.
Give it a much better name.
They'll change tactics. They won't go after the DNS. They'll go after something else. Yeah. What do you think? Here's an interesting question. Anybody got their best bets on what the big issue will be in 2012? What will be that grinding issue that calls out the protests and the petitions and the changing your avatars on Twitter? And
man, that's a hard one.
Okay.
And if we don't know,
I think changing your avatar on Twitter is a good.
I think it's going to be a throwback to net neutrality, actually, because it kind of died down.
That's really what that's what my prediction would be too.
Because we have all these data caps that are coming in, and we have consolidation right now of mobile phone companies effectively, because T-Mobile's probably going to be dead. So you're going to have all these caps, and you're going to wonder,
no,
hey,
it's
what?
not. It's going to get the iPhone 5. It's going to win.
As of right now. So I'm not. So I'm saying, like, I'm thinking because of that, you're going to start wondering, okay, like I only have 5 gigabytes. Why can't I pick what I get? Instead of saying, oh, well, you know, you can prioritize this and that and the other thing. Like, no, I want to actually control that. I think people are, as people move more and more towards mobile devices, they're going to care more about what they actually have access to. So
I think the carriers will just keep going, well, we now have a 10 gigabyte plan. We now have a 20 gigabyte plan. They'll just try to stay just enough ahead that it won't cause too much frustration for the average.
Smart business.
For the average.
I think this might be
because that's what they've been doing.
Yep.
Because they have 10 gigabyte plans, which they never had before. All right. What about cloud? We've made some cloud predictions. Any other cloud predictions?
No.
I think hard drives are going to start looking a little like optical storage did about 3 years ago. Like you won't. They're not going to be unavailable, but a lot of people will start to think, I don't really care about the hard drive. I want one in there, but I don't really care too much about it. I've got so much stuff in the cloud.
You're calling for the return of the Chromebook?
No, not at all. No, I'm saying we won't be looking like, gosh, I need a bigger and bigger hard drive. I think it's going to be like optical storage has been the last few years. Yeah, I want it in my laptop. I don't really use it that often. I think the hard drive is going to be like, yeah, I don't really store most of my stuff on my hard drive anymore. I've got all these cloud services for my music and for my docs and everything.
I think that's right. I think that's right because the movement has been like, okay, we're going to go to SSDs, and usually they're much lower capacity. And with all the cloud services that came out this year, it's like, well, my music's over there, and my videos are up there, and I got everything anyway. So, and the Ultrabook movement, maybe.
Yeah, I think larger, cheaper, solid-state storage and cloud storage combined make us just not care.
Thing.
I mean, I'm not saying the hard drive goes away. It just becomes like we don't care so much about the gigahertz in a processor anymore, right?
Well, think of how many years. The bigger the hard drive, the better.
Yeah.
And they got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Exactly.
And now, yeah, I'm with you. So that there's a significant amount of data that now doesn't need to be stored on my hard drive.
There's going to be a certain level of hard drive that we kind of hover around. It's like, yeah, that's enough. 1 terabyte that's all I need.
Maybe that'd be nice.
You say that now.
I feel like we can't have a prediction show without talking about RIM.
Yep.
We got to do it, right?
Yep.
So.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess I should have gone in our mobile section, but okay, yeah, go ahead.
Do I have to go first?
Well, you brought it up.
I got no RIM prediction.
All right. Here's my prediction.
Take your rim shots.
And this is, I'm grasping at straws because I have no freaking idea what's going to happen with RIM because the whole thing is total soap opera. BlackBerry 10, too late, not going to happen in time. Stock is garbage. RIM will be acquired by Amazon.
Amazon? Okay.
Both RIM CEOs out. With the success of the Kindle Fire, Amazon uses RIM infrastructure, hardware business to get more into the enterprise sector.
Okay.
What is that?
That's a rim shot.
It's a rim shot.
Okay.
Get it?
I was like, you making fun of? Oh, it's a rim shot. Okay. That was good. Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
That's my prediction.
My prediction is that RIM will get acquired, but not by Amazon. It'll be by Dell.
That wasn't rim shot. That was just,
that
must
like
be
a joke. No, I think Dell has failed so often in the tablet and phone space that and they're so enterprise based. It's like, you know what? Why not them? HP tried it. They failed. Dell, why not with RIM? Just pick them up. It just seems like something Dell would do. And then I'm trying to think of all the other PC manufacturers out there. I'm really thinking there's not a whole lot of them out there that would want this. But Dell's crazy enough to do it.
I think, you know what? I think HP is going to buy RIM.
I thought about that for half a second.
They just love a hard luck case.
They're like, we bought Palm.
I couldn't resist Palm. You're next.
What's HP, the slaughterhouse?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you come over here.
Either that or RIM and Yahoo are going to be at the bankruptcy bar together, drowning their sorrows.
I'm going to say Dell. You're going to see Dell smartphones from RIM.
I've got a couple more just random predictions. Anybody got any
I have
other?
a few random predictions.
Yep.
Okay. I think someone's going to do a study. Actually, this is more of a request than a prediction. Please, someone do a study.
NPD,
which shows that even though music, TV, movie, book, newspaper, and magazine sales are all falling, total spending on media has risen consistently over the past 10 years because we're just spending it in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, please, someone go do that study.
Okay.
Next. Random.
What did I?
Randomizer.
What did I say?
Randomizer predictions.
Well, I've got a couple more predictions in the streaming music category. I predict Spotify will sort of win. I think RDO is going to be bought by somebody because it's a really good business, but they won't continue to be competitors on an equal level.
Okay.
Could Spotify buy RDO? Would that
Spotify buying RIM.
Oh, okay.
That'll definitely reinvigorate BlackBerry Music.
Yeah.
Or whatever that is called.
Yeah.
Maybe Music. That's what it's called.
I don't think Spotify will buy RDO. I think someone else will. I decided not to predict who would.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that Spotify becomes the streaming music winner, at least for now. At least for the year.
Okay, I'm saying Netflix will finally get a real competitor. There's actually going to be a dead-on...
Like a love film comes over here, or Verizon starts some new thing.
Well, I mean, it could easily be Amazon
could come
building
from
up
a lot
little
of
bit.
different... Yeah,
Amazon's getting... They're really
corners.
close right now, but I'm saying with when I say Netflix will have a competitor, I mean the same kind of... We're on every device. I think there's going to be somebody out there, and it's probably going to be Amazon, that's going to be able to go, yeah, we're on every TV.
It's probably going to be Yahoo. You know what? They are on almost every device.
They're on, yeah, well, maybe.
Some weird way. Not in video. Go ahead, Jason.
Windows 8? Haven't had any Windows 8 predictions.
Yeah, it's coming out. I predict it'll come out.
Whoa!
I predict that CES 2012
Windows 8 will be seen as the Vista to Windows 7.
No.
No? You don't
Not
think
even close. I don't think so.
You know the future?
I'm saying
I think Windows 8 will be seen as the Windows 98.
Yeah, like, hey,
to Windows 7. In other words, Windows 98 came out. Everybody's like, oh, yeah, that's great. It's an improvement over Windows 95. Totally non-controversial.
But nobody gets it.
No, people got Windows 98. It wasn't there. People forget the difference between the two of them now when you think back. They kind of blend.
I see what you're saying.
I think Windows 8 is going to be like that for the computer. And then I think for the tablet, it's going to be a massive failure.
Yeah, see, I don't see Windows 8 with its kind of tile kind of approach.
Yeah, but on a desktop, you won't be using the tile. I don't care what Microsoft says. When they sell desktops, it's going to look just like Windows 7 does now. And you'll have the option to use that tile interface, but nobody will.
All right. Well, I'll still just kind of log it for the history books. Windows 8 will be seen as a Vista to Windows 7. Adoption will be low.
Okay.
There we go.
So
any other Microsoft predictions? Windows predictions?
I just have two stragglers.
Anyone?
They're
okay.
Microsoft.
Straggler, Sarah, do you have one?
I predicted that Microsoft would buy Yahoo for half of the price I wanted to buy Yahoo before.
Oh, that's not a bad one. That could happen.
Just holding the torch like
that. Could easily happen.
I said I predicted as if I already predicted it in my own mind. That is written down in my notes.
Okay.
Yeah. Microsoft buys Yahoo. And then I figured, well, you've got the issue of Alibaba. What's going to happen there with Yahoo's stake in Alibaba? I think Microsoft and Alibaba team up. Get Alibaba better, more of a, I don't know, like an Amazon competitor presence in the U.S.
Interesting.
That's a really interesting one right there. I just have Ultrabooks won't fail, even though everyone thinks they're doomed. They're not going to. And Amazon's larger tablet will come out. That's the last two I got sitting around. I
think Ultrabooks will fail, but I do think that the tablet will come out. I think that was. By the end of 2012, HTML will be threatening to overtake Flash. They won't quite have shoved it out of the marketplace for usage, but
HTML5
it will be HTML.
Oh. Okay.
I'm saying it that way because I don't think HTML5 will be the standard yet.
Okay.
So technically, it will just be people using HTML5, the unwritten standard. But yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Interesting. Mine is totally related. HTML5 domination becomes crystal clear. Flash for the web suffers dearly for it.
Yeah, I think Flash will continue to hold on to a thin percentage majority when you really count all the websites using it, but. But the decline percentage versus rise percentage will clearly be in HTML5's favor.
Okay.
I also think shopping centers are going to start to look entirely different because of the internet. That you'll start to notice weird, different kinds of startup-y shops in shopping centers. Kind of.
You mean when you say shopping centers, you mean malls?
Yeah, well, I like strip malls and that kind of stuff. You remember the eBay stores?
Yeah.
Kind of concept. I think you're going to see more weird stuff like that, or stores really pitching themselves as front ends of websites, even if they're local.
Like a VC store for Y Combinator or something?
No, nothing like that. I just mean that they're going to see themselves as an internet business with a front end. And so current brick and mortar stores will start to emphasize that more and start to welcome things like Red Laser and putting their inventories online so you can order online and it's stressing the ease of pickup. Instead of having it shipped, just swing by on your way home. It's so much easier than waiting 2 days for it to show up in the mail and get left by the FedEx guy who threw it over the fence and broke it. That
never happens.
Retail's going to start stressing that, and you're going to see different kinds of businesses show up because of that.
I think that's a pretty good prediction.
It's probably like a 5-year prediction instead of a 1 year, but that's it. I'm out.
I don't know how I missed this, but I did. It was below the fold of my Google Doc. It's tablet related. Kindle Fire has opened the floodgates to the mind share of the masses. Therefore, tablets that aren't the iPad will continue to be better received. iPad sales will markedly decrease, at least a little bit, noticeably. I'm not saying like a huge amount or small amount. I'm just saying that up until this point, competitors to the iPad have kind of been, I don't know, haven't been taken super seriously. Kindle Fire has kind of opened people's eyes to the fact that there are other tablets out there, and maybe that continues. I guess I don't know. That's a hard one to put into words, so that it's easy to judge at the
tablets
end.
Will do things.
Not necessarily. I just think competitors to the iPad will have a better success rate this year in 2012 than they did this year before the Kindle Fire. If that makes sense.
That's a pretty safe prediction.
You got to have a safe prediction.
That's not a criticism, but I think, I think the iPad can't continue to hold on to 80+% of the market.
Right.
It just can't happen.
There we go. That sounds better.
I mean, it did happen with the iPod. They held on to that market for the personal music player for a very long time. Until they basically killed it with their phone. So, I mean, that's the thing. I think the only reason that this is going to work, that Android's going to take a market share, is that because Android 4.0 is really, really good. And there hasn't been anything close to that on the personal music player thing.
And I mean, that's another big part of it, is just my personal kind of faith in ice cream sandwich on a tablet. I think it really will improve the Android tablet space.
All right. Last words? Sarah Lane?
I think that 2012 is just going to be a slam dunk of a year.
It's going to be a great year, guys.
We're going to have such a good time. Yeah. Tablets and SOPA and patents.
Do you predict that at the end of the year, we'll all still be sitting here?
Last year, let's see.
Yes.
Because last year, you were here.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
And you were here.
Yeah.
You were the only one who wasn't here.
But it's
Am I getting fired now?
No.
We have gained
last
people.
words.
Yeah. I think we'll all be here. Maybe there'll be another person.
There might be 3 or 4 new people at that round table.
Are you
leaving again?
Or,
no.
Yeah? You're leaving the network? Or?
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean,
I miss
not going
Becky.
anywhere. What's that?
I miss Becky.
Well, maybe she'll be here.
Yeah. Maybe she will. Maybe we'll get Becky back. I don't know. This is all just silliness. Okay, we're done. Thank you, everybody, for watching or listening. Those are our predictions. We will check in on them a year from now to see how we did. You can find us on the web, twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, tnt@twit.tv, or give us a call. Our phone number is 260-TNT-SHOW. We'll be back with regular news on Monday, January 2nd in the year 2012.
Happy New Year.